I got up early today. The boils.
Yeah.
The boils. Should we just start the show right now?
Oh yeah. I think we should. Okay. All right.
Okay,
so
no, but we're starting. You started. You're the host. I'm the guest. Lovely studio. Kick the tires on this thing.
welcome back to the Extracted Podcast. My name is Shannon Boyles, and I am here with the wonderful, talented Jared Iwi, because this is season 1, episode. Wait a minute. I'm going to need an edit. Season 1, episode 4, Jared Iwi. And before we do all of that, we have to say a few things.
There's some housekeeping.
The reason why we're doing this is to get our stories organized, because you and I have very busy brains that jump all over the place, and it's hard to stay on track. So this gives us that chance to get organized, work it out, make each other laugh. And then there's the gamification piece.
Which, by the way, you were very generous in saying that you lost a point to me, but you didn't, because it was merely a cosmetic edit. You'd said a wrong date. I'm like, no, that doesn't count. I am now, it's 2-0 you. Because I've had to do 2 edits because of my big mouth and my overall lie awake softness. And both the times I needed an edit, it was because it came down to content and, that could offend some people. It probably wouldn't. I was like, I could get sued. Probably wouldn't. But the brain goes places.
Yeah. And you want to sleep at night.
Yeah. So I've had to edit 2 things out. She has 2 points. I have 0. And your edits have just been like, for the overall program, maybe it should be, there was an inaccurate date, you said.
I said the wrong year.
Yeah. But those edits can take place, but there's no points.
Okay.
It comes down to fortitude, of which I lack.
You do not lack fortitude. But as we were saying right before we hit record, Jared, you are meant to write a book with all of these brilliant, amazing stories that you are chock full of. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm going to see you doing, the circuit of being a guest on lots of different shows like Wait, Don't Tell Me and Fresh Air on NPR, morning show circuits, on all the major networks. I could see you being, what was that show? The Actors Studio, even with that guy.
Yeah. He has since passed, so I should have written a book a little earlier.
Well, maybe they need to bring it back and have a new. I'll host it.
Yeah.
But the book, and you woke up early today to write.
I did, and you know why? Let me cut you off. It's the most important thing. Shannon Boyle said, if I can go through all the things I did for more than a decade with my health and thinking I'm going to die and having organs removed on a regular basis, then you can get up a little early and write the book.
That sounds like such manipulation and guilt.
I love manipulation.
You know what? Because my mother's a travel agent for guilt trips, I've inherited that manipulative behavior. Mm-hmm. And so although I didn't quite set it up like that, damn right. If but it worked. You got up early. You wrote.
I did.
And, again, you're coming off of that monster win at the Moth Grand Slam Monster Jam.
I don't know the whole name, but I like that. Yeah,
I like it too. The Monster Jam part.
Well, and it was really cool. The Moth has been really good for me. It's funny. There's a foreword in the book that they gave me.
Yeah,
for the
here's
Moth.
the book.
Yeah, and it's by Mike Birbiglia, who is a very good comedian, and he credits the Moth for getting him to tell stories.
Okay, no, wait a minute. What? I just happened to open this,
yeah,
and we got to share with.
Look at that. Yeah.
Look at this. The Moth Grand Slam champions. There, you have like more than one in here.
Yeah, I think 2 people signed it. They each signed it.
Oh my
I don't know.
This needs to be in a frame.
Yeah,
but it's in the book.
One. It's the 4th one. Oh, that's my son's scuba diving ones. But
so I didn't.
Yes, but no. It's good because I won't write unless I have something big coming up.
Right.
And I thought you were commanding me to write. I'm like, Jesus, I will. Okay, I got up early.
See what I did there?
God, a girl gets a hysterectomy. She starts yelling at everybody. No, but the this just doing this show has gotten me to
motivated.
And the narrators too, which is another great storytelling show. So I had been, as far as the book went, people were like, "Oh, just you've written all these stories, just put them together." I am not going to do that. I'm not going to take stories that already exist and put them in a book. I'm going to take stories that already exist and put them within a bigger story in a book.
And what you mentioned a couple episodes ago, where one story's yellow, another one's blue, and together they make green.
Thank you,
and
Ziploc.
To me, it sounds like this great, colorful Ziploc choose your own adventure novel that people are just going to...
Ziploc moment because it's in the bag.
That's right. But bump.
You can tell we're Gen X and grew up in the 80s with those bags.
Those
that came
hefty
out.
commercials with Tom Bosley.
Yellow and red make green.
Yellow
and blue make green.
green.
And we knew it was closed. We knew it was sealed. And knew our PB&J couldn't be touched by demons.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yes, what you were saying.
So, you being this just naturally talented storyteller, both in the written form and the oral form, you know what your calling is. And I know that you're so busy, and that's what we were just talking about. You have all these clients, you got kids, you got dogs, wife, the whole thing. But your heart and what you want to do is the book.
Yeah, yes. And I was wondering the other day, thinking, why is it I'm not full of regret for lost time? But none of it's really been lost. It's funny. Don't put things off if you know you don't have to, people. Because let me just tell you a quick story. In 2004, we went to Fort Lewis College, right? And one of those benefits is that we get the Smoke Signals magazine.
Right.
And I think it has a different name now because that
name is not cool.
Yeah, maybe not great. And so it had a guy in the front who had written a play. And he said, don't wait to do the thing you want to do. Oh. So me, instead of just doing the thing I wanted to do, this was just coming off a big writing contest win for the Inglewood 100th year celebration.
I remember that.
Yeah, and that should have really propelled me.
Right.
But I get this magazine, and the guy says that, and what do I do? Instead of looking at the magazine for his tips and pointers and inspiration, I go to find out how old he is to see how many years I have till I have to write it. And he's like 2 years older than me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in no hurry. And that was 20 years ago. So... But it's funny, just that story would make you think, oh, that poor Billy Joel listening, bar drinking bastard, he's doomed with regret. I'm not at all. I feel like I've had an opportunity to ruminate and live and have, well, unfortunately, many people perish. But with that, just an incredible tidal wave of information that are good stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, just because that guy did it at that age doesn't mean that you have to or everybody else does, because I feel like, I had similar feelings where all the years I was sick and I didn't have anything to show for success. I'm not married. I don't have kids. And it was like, I felt like my life was ruined. And I focused so much on that once I went back to school and got a new career and everything, I am like, wow, you got to really... watch your words and what you say out in the universe, right? Because it's like, I think I was, pardon my French, cock-blocking myself for many years because I just thought I was a sad sack of shit.
Maybe that should be next episode when you tell a story, because that's really interesting to me, is what you did and what you had to do.
Yeah.
So you made all these big mental shifts.
But today, we're talking about Jared.
I know. So just a note, this is hugely important. I mean, you could read 1,000 posts on LinkedIn, and if you didn't off yourself from sadness, you would learn half of what she'll tell you in one quick snippet, which we'll include in the next episode of Extracted when you talk more about that shift.
Yeah.
Which you have mentioned here some, but that's huge.
It is.
Because people talk about it all the time. You should have note cards of positive sayings. Like, what were the concrete things coming up next on Extracted?
That was a
now
tease.
It's my turn. I'm not the host. I'm not the host. Sorry.
That's right.
I get overcome with hostness. I'm like, can I see you?
Well, as the hostess with the mostess over here, and we are talking about you, I appreciate that wonderful, promotion for the next episode, but we're going to stay in today, and we're going to talk about you and the book. And I know that one element of the book was the story you told the night of the Moth Grand Slam Monster Jam, and we were talking today about what you wanted to get into.
And I could tell the story.
Yeah.
I could tell the extended version.
I love it.
And some of you might be like, oh, God, not the extended version, but I think it's pretty good.
I do, too. And I've not heard the extended version, so I'm all ears.
That was always happened to me when we'd be like at the middle school dance, and I didn't want to dance with anybody because I really didn't know how to dance, but slow songs I could kind of dance, so I'd finally relent and say yes to dance to someone, and it would be the extended version of Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams, which instead of 4 minutes is like 9 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, and so you're just rocking and smelling each other's bubble gum for like a good portion of an hour. But this is a positive extended version. Not that time I spent on the dance floor wasn't, I'm sure, at some, creating character. So the theme of the night was a point of beauty, and that's the theme of this book too, point of beauty. And so I told this story about a single point of beauty, and it starts off with something that's not very pretty. But the whole theme that I wrap it around is my mom's optimism.
Yes.
And how she could take this moment that wasn't very pretty and turn it into a
Yes.
thing. So my mom this is before she gets sick.
So what year do you think?
This is probably 1991.
Okay, so you're in college.
No, I'm in high school.
You're in high school. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're going to be going
I
to
live
college.
in Walden, Colorado, and the biggest thing probably in Walden is basketball. We didn't have enough people to field a football team, but we did anyway.
Okay.
And that was a struggle bus. But basketball was big.
Okay.
We loved being indoors because it was cold outside.
Right.
And a lot of the neighboring towns, the same passion. And one of those towns was Encampment, Wyoming, just over the border.
Right.
And we had a big border battle. It was always ugly. Like, the fans were ugly. The players were, we struggled to focus on the game. I remember being one of those ugly fans a couple times before I was on the varsity team, just being terrible in the stands.
Now, was this the same school from the story you told where your eyesight wasn't
Yes.
great and you were leaping over the tiger? Okay, you thought it was a winter coat?
Yeah, yeah. Are you telling the story?
No, I'm sorry.
I know, but I don't know. I don't think you gave away too much.
No, I just was checking if this was the same team.
Yeah, this is it. This is the team. I mean, this is the story about that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting into that.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I didn't. No, there should be some kind of like not a safe word, but like a go word.
We need a safe word.
Yeah, but or a go word. Yeah.
We didn't even say that we're coming to you from the Bang Bang Bunker.
We didn't go through all that.
No. But, okay.
Okay.
I digress.
Yeah.
I'm going to need an edit.
No, you don't get it. Well, if we did edit it, it would be clearly just for the program, not because you wimped out like I did.
And I just blew your story, but okay.
Yeah. Okay, no, but you're right. What you said is what happened.
Right.
So, and it ties in with my mom and her optimism, because she was super optimistic, and you have to be, I think. We grew up with not a lot of money. We were in the middle of nowhere at 9,000 feet, 4 or 5 feet of snow, 40 below zero a lot. And she was out there by herself a lot in a wood-heated home. And in the daytime, my dad would go to work. All the kids, we'd go to school, and she'd be in the middle of the wild with just her and whatever animals were milling around for food. But she was always very optimistic, and that night really tested her optimism, because there was a game, yes, and I didn't get to play much, unless, of course, we were way ahead or the game was a total loss. And I was as shocked as anyone when the coach called my name. And usually when he yelled my name, I'm like, do you need a Band-Aid? What's going on? Do you need a drink of water, sir? And he puts me in the game. And as I've explained, because what is about to take place on the court is inexplicable, really. I mean, did that really happen? And it did, and I hate that it did. Thank you to Willie Gimmel, my dear friend for many years, who comforted me on the bus that night, just saying, "Oh, Jared, it's okay."
And this is Willie Bert's brother.
Yeah, you know William Bert.
Well, because you've talked about William Bert in other episodes.
They get sucked into everything. Yeah, because there's no.
I listen.
There was no kids out in Gould, so they stuck, because when they would show up. So anyway, that night, I get in the game, and a few things. A, I'm not used to playing.
Right.
B, I was very self-conscious. I don't know why. I mean, like I've said before, we had hand-me-down uniforms, and previous generations were thinner. And I just felt like I was wearing body paint. I felt naked out there. But the biggest thing is, yes, I needed glasses, and I did not wear them. Because I didn't play enough to invest in the sports glasses. My parents didn't even want to give me regular glasses. They're like, get to college and see what happens.
Had you been told previously that you had vision issues?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
okay.
The eye doctor was like, you need glasses.
Okay.
Gymnasiums were really bad. It kind of gave me a double vision. It was this weird fluorescent issue.
Yeah, that fluorescent light.
Yeah, it was terrible. And so when I walked on the court, like you said, I thought the Encampment Tiger mascot painted in the middle of the floor was someone's winter coat. I'll stand by it today. And I remember, and you'd think that merits questioning, but I don't know if you've ever seen something and you just become so certain of it. Because I became so certain because I just wrapped myself in the prospect of demonstrating my athletic prowess.
Yes.
And so instead of just avoiding the winter coat, I went after the winter coat, and I would jump it. Like every time I'd run up and down the court, I would do
leap over
the coat. I'd often locking eyes with the slovenly Wyoming fans like you in your winter wardrobe all over the floor. I don't care. You can throw your dungarees at the free throw line. I don't care. I'll jump it. One time I did a little plie. I kept my dribble as I jumped over what I thought was the winter coat. And it was weird how quiet the gym was, and I
Okay.
thought, I've stunned these mofos.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like doing this Baryshnikov basketball, blowing their minds
Yeah, exactly.
as you're dribbling and plie-ing.
Right. And in my mind, there's nothing but what's happening is that there's a crowd absolutely awestruck by my athleticism.
Yes.
And the coach calls a timeout. Not because the game is out of hand, because, well, I'm in there, so it's clearly comfortable, but because he's probably worried about my mental well-being.
Right.
And we get in the huddle, and I run into the huddle, and I'm like, what's the deal with that winter coat out there? And I remember Donnie Burbeau turns to me, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, there's a winter coat out there? And he's like, there's no... And I don't know if you've ever been pushed from the precipice of certainty into the boiling reality below.
Many times.
But I've never been so cold without a winter coat. Because when I realize the truth, I walk out in the timeout, I look in the floor, and I'm like, oh my God, Jared. It was one of those moments like, just pause, man. Just pause before you act.
Yeah.
Oh God, all the testosterone, all the nerves, everything had pushed me to this point of leaping over an imaginary winter coat. Everybody in Encampment and Walden are there. Thankfully, my mom is there too, because she sees me after the game. I'm in the emotional fetal position. I'm walking out the floor, and she comes up to me. I'm like, Mom, do not, because she's so positive, and I know what she's going to. She is a silver lining miner, prospecting for reasons to be positive, and I tell her, no, it's not going to work. And she's like, no, it was a great game. And I was mean to her. I was like, Mom, did you even watch the freaking thing? And she's like, yeah. And I never realized how good of a jumper you are.
Oh.
She says that, oh my God. And it's like, when parents try to be optimistic, it just makes it worse. But she genuinely was trying to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a sweet thing. Because, like, my mom would have been very critical, I think, and pointed out all the things I did wrong. But your mom, and I can just picture her, she's so sweet, has a sweet little voice. I could see her saying, Jared, I didn't realize you were such a good jumper.
Yeah. And that's only halfway. That's the halfway point of the story. Because you're like, where's the single point of beauty, that moment when you were all sweaty and your mom was trying to help you?
And I just totally jumped the shark on, taking the first part of the story out. But
no, but it's okay. I mean,
zip it.
I think I'm being a little too performative right now.
No, you're not.
No, okay, because when I get on stage, it's different. Like, so it's okay. It's going all right with you?
This is great.
Okay, all right. So, the story, as I told on stage, we jump from Encampment, thankfully. Nothing against Encampment, but that moment.
Real quick. So you guys didn't win, but
No, we did win.
You did win.
That's why I was in the game, because we were up like 20 or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Did
Glad
you
we cleared
play
this
them
up.
again?
We played them every year.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a big deal. And we weren't, because we're different states, we weren't in the same division or whatever, but we were same size schools, same size small town pen up crap,
Like farm team kind
yeah,
of thing.
exactly. And it was always a big game. And it was always cold. We were like...
Right.
And so everybody has all the stuff they bring into the gym. And then the gym is filled with former athletes, living vicariously through some guy who's leaping over an imaginary coat.
No, but it would make absolute sense if there was a winter coat on the floor because it's so cold.
Well, I think...
I mean, did it look
Dear
like
Mom,
a big fur
you are not
coat?
dead. You are in the room.
Oh.
You are
she's
possessing
in here.
Shannon.
She's in here. She's always here.
But it wouldn't make sense. Like the whole game, everybody's just playing with the winter coat. Why?
Are you
Why?
15, 16?
No, I probably 16. I was
Okay.
younger for my class, but
Yeah,
probably
because we're
16.
born on the same day, and I was always younger.
You would know this.
And we were
You
in the
would
same
know.
grade in college.
Yeah, okay.
So, yes.
We can tell we haven't done this in a minute because we're having
I
this
know.
really...
Oh, yeah, that's the other
It's
thing.
okay.
Jared and I were born on the exact same day,
Exact same day.
7/7/74, but we didn't meet each other until college when we realized that we were born on that same day.
Yeah.
But how ironic that I'm also the youngest of my class because of when I got put in school. And
Yeah.
thank God I did because
Then we
I wouldn't
were
have met you.
together. Yeah.
Right.
And but anyway, the story then jumps about 14, 15 years in the future.
Okay.
From when I'm about 16 to when I'm close to 30.
So real quick, so you were saying that your mom first started getting sick when you were in high school.
No, she wasn't sick.
She wasn't sick then,
I was.
okay.
I was one with a
This
vision
was
problem.
before she was sick.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So she doesn't start getting sick until 1996. 96.
Okay, so you're out of school.
Yeah, so I just graduated college. I'm actually on Big Dog Radio in Farmington, New Mexico.
I remember Big Dog.
Yeah, and that was a struggle bus. That was a whole that's another story that won the Moth.
You were going to say why Farmington hated you.
Right, and they did, and that's another story that won the Moth. They
teasing another
right. We'll do that another day, but I thought I was going to lose my life until I held hands with a wonderful gay man who detected for me that I was not gay. And anyway, I'll share that later. It's a very good story. But but it was interesting because I'm living this crazy, like, sex and alcohol fueled radio dream. I make very little money, but I don't care. Like,
you're a celebrity.
Yeah, it's just weird. I have just apologies to everyone. Apologies to Jesus or whatever deity is out there. Apologies to people of decency. But it was a wild time. But one of the biggest parts of that show was I'd bring my mom on, and she would do updates on her health and stuff. And at the time, we thought, okay, we got this in the bag.
Okay.
Because it's meningioma tumors, which are typically benign.
Okay, say that word again.
Meningioma.
Okay.
That are typically benign. But also, this is about when my dad's starting to have as a girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know, and I meet Sarah. Well, I'd already met Sarah. I finally asked her out. You know, and I go in my separate direction. Mom and dad in there. She's still having surgeries, and she ends up living with Sarah and me, if you go back to another episode of this.
Right.
And so at this point, where the story goes in the Moth, she's living with us. And it's late in the game.
Yeah.
And I need to talk to her. I need to talk to her about, like, do you realize what we realize, kind of thing. And being as optimistic as she is, this is a part I didn't include in the story, but I'm at the Breakfast King, the now sadly defunct Breakfast King.
Santa Fe and Mississippi.
That's correct. And we would go there every Sunday. There was even a breakfast named after my mom there, unofficially, yeah. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just fueled by bottomless coffee. And, when you have something to say to somebody, and you know the rules of relationships, whether it's wife or mom or whatever, you just need to communicate no matter how painful it is.
Yeah.
And you start to fantasize about being, brave enough to climb up on that noble steed of conversational awesomeness and say it. And that coffee fueled me. And I turned to my mom, who was nibbling on her half of her omelet thing. And I just blurred at her. I'm like, Mom, we're running out of time. We got to do something.
Yeah.
And I remember Sarah's like eating her scrambled eggs and toast, and she pauses to watch me.
Eyebrows lifted.
Yeah. And that will come up later in the story. And the eyebrows lifted. And I'm just like, we got to do something. Yeah. But my mom's optimism and humor was so on point that she's listening to me and chewing. And she was an annoying chewer. She did that thing that people raised properly did. She chews like 30 times, even if it doesn't need it. And I'm waiting for it to end because I've proposed to her that we need to I tell her, I don't care if you want to go to India. I don't care if we're going to do some sled dogs at the Iditarod, but it's not about money. It's about time now. Let's just do it.
So at this point, your mom's been through how many brain surgeries?
Probably 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of them, they had to remove her frontal cortex?
The frontal, her skull.
Her skull.
Yeah. And at this point, her flesh is just on her head. Like, because they got an infection, and so they had to remove the skull plate. Wow. That's amazing how many things are not of the patient.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, wow. So anyway, it's deep and dark, and so I tell her this. I just blurted out. She chews about 30 more times on an egg, which did not need it.
Right.
And she turns to me and she says, "Why, Jared? Are you dying soon?"
Oh, that would make me
I
cry.
did right there. And so, but it was 10 days later, we were in Mexico because she wanted to see the Caribbean. That was her, she's like, I want to see the Caribbean. I'm like, boom.
What I love about you is that you realized that time was fleeting and that you needed to get your mom somewhere that she had always wanted to go to.
Yeah.
And give her that gift before it was too late. Yeah.
And that was good. I wish I would later when we get back from Mexico, people start telling me that, and they want it would piss me off so bad. When you already know something and people are telling you about it, and that was the biggest thing ever. And I did explode on to people. They'd be like, Jared, I think you're running out of time. Oh no, shit, Gilmore.
Right. You think I don't know that?
God, I'm like fucking hospice right now. Yes.
Yeah.
But but I was always comforted by this trip that we did it. I got my sister and my brother-in-law. They went to But my sister and my wife and me, we are noting that my mom is changing. Like
Yeah.
we don't think she can see as well. And what we don't know is a new tumor's coming in.
Okay.
Because they stopped being meningioma at some point. And my theory is that maybe a radiation treatment, something made these cells change.
Go rogue.
Because she died of an astrocytoma, which is a death sentence. And this tumor is closing up the blood supply to her optic nerve.
Wow.
So she is going blind, but she doesn't want to tell us. Also, she doesn't really realize it because she's starting to just make up her own world and an incredible world of hallucinations, which is a whole other story. When I call the Center for the Blind to come over to help me out, my mom is claiming that she can see and that I've built a brick wall between her and the bathroom and that there's bicycles all over the house and that all these things she's just making up. And in some, it was positive because my oldest son, Quinn, is named after Quintanamos, who is her imaginary chef in her closet.
Yeah.
And there was TVs on the ceiling, which I could not afford or have, and she would watch movies on those. It's like, whoa, I don't know if I'm in the wrong place or you're in the wrong place. But before all that, we're in Mexico, and we're worried about her vision. And I am stuck. Yes, go ahead.
So your wife, Sarah, and your sister and you decide we're going to take mom to Mexico. Mm-hmm. Because your mom's always wanted to go.
Yeah.
And so where exactly in Mexico?
So we go, it's just south of Cancun. Cancun's great, but it's pretty crowded. So it's Riviera Maya stuff south of Cancun. And my wife and I had just been there for a delayed honeymoon. So we get back and I tell my mom, and she's like, I want to go where you guys went. And we're like, okay. Done. I was so tan for a while there. And so we get down there and I'm just holding her hand everywhere. And it's weird, even though that I'm clearly the care provider now. It's weird when it's your mom. There's still these primal rules that rule. And she tells me one day, I just want to walk around by myself. And I'm like, okay. And she just leaves the hotel room, and the door. As the door's closing, I can feel this presence, and it's my wife. And she's doing this, the eyebrows raised.
Yeah, what did you just let...
This is the international sign of WTF. And if you've been with somebody for a long time, it writes a really long book where we were newlywed, and it succinctly said one very integral thing. Did you just let your mom, who we believe is going blind, into a country she's never been in by herself?
And she's out on a walk.
Yeah, and I bolted after that. And it wouldn't take me long to find her because she fell in a hot tub. And actually, luckily, she fell on the people in the hot tub. And so I show up there, and there's this bewildered family from Wisconsin being charmed by a very optimistic woman with some bumps and bruises who is fully clothed and standing in the water explaining this is how she meets people. And I'm like, wow.
What a sweet thing to say.
I mean, it's like a plane crash, and she just emerges from the wreckage and saying, that's how we learn.
Yeah.
Okay, that particular Boeing wasn't the best one, but... So I'm mad as hell because this family is wondering what I'm doing with my mom.
Yeah, they're probably like, what kind of son is
Yeah, and the guy's being nice. He's the paternal part of this group. And he's like, is everything okay with your mom? And I'm just growling pleasantries. When you want to be conciliatory, but you're pissed. And I'm like, thank you. No, she's fine. And I was like, Mom.
Yeah.
And I grab her hand, and she's just soaking wet. And she's got a cut on her knee and scrape on her eye. And I'm like... God. So hold her hand to the beach and sit on the beach. And I'm like, we're getting to the point of beauty part here. It's really soon. And I'm like, Mom, what is going on, with your eyesight? You got to talk to me about this. And she pauses for a moment, and she's brushing stuff off her. Mm-hmm. She's always very neat, always folding things and brushing counters and stuff. And she brushes herself off and says, I was a teacher. That's what she says to me in response to that. And I was like, I know, Mom, shirking the freaking issue here, but and I told her, you still are a teacher. And then she just pauses for a minute, and she's like, I was a lifeguard. And it's true. Not long ago, finally living her dream as a teacher, she was a lifeguard, in the ultimate mental, physical shape. Did not drink, did not smoke, none of that, And then, she says she was a lifeguard. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, you've got the shit into the deal. And it's funny. You could see her pivot. She realizes the negativity is getting to me.
Yeah.
And she just stops. And she's like, no, Jared, it's not that bad. Because there's still one spot in my left eye where I can see. Mm. And it's beautiful. Mm. That's what she says. Looking out at the Caribbean. And we think we think that was the end of the story there.
Which is the point of beauty.
Yeah, the point of beauty, exactly.
And that's such a beautiful story.
And we think that pretty much the last thing she saw was the Caribbean.
Wow.
Yeah, because by the time we would get back, it was full-on hallucinations.
Okay.
Full on.
So those tumors were pressing on her brain that would cause the hallucinations.
Yeah, cutting the circulation. Well, yeah, cutting off the circulation. Now, so the hallucinations was weird because I would tell doctors and they wouldn't all have like a consensus, but they would just say things like, this is what your brain does. Like it fills voids, and she's had a lifetime of visual stimuli. So it's just feeding her,
Wow.
So it was a little bit exciting and creepy, but like the whole house was filled with small kids. She'd been a teacher.
Yeah.
My older brother, who lived 2,000 miles away, was in the house all the time as a baby. So she was always looking for him.
Right.
But there was the dark side. She told the Center for the Blind that I'd taken out the toilet and replaced it with an earthen pot. Yeah. And so while a blind man was in the house inspecting the toilet, and I was guiding his hands around the porcelain of the toilet. It was like a weird. It was like
that movie Ghost.
Ghost, yeah. We were ghosting together with this, and and that was the sad part. Is like when they realized what was happening, how they just kind of left without.
So
they didn't know what to do.
That's something that I think is for another day. But if you're providing a service to a certain population of people, and someone calls you in crisis, and you assess the situation and then you go dark, that's not cool.
Yeah, it was weird. It was the loneliness of it was just highlighted when that screen door closed behind that person that came with the guy. There was a person who was sighted, and she was there. And they expected a donation and stuff, and they did provide us with a walking stick and a check writing template and a phone dialing template. Okay. But I think it was all that time with the Center for the Blind, wrestling with my mom in the hallway, trying to prove to this very large man, in fact, there were no bricks between the bathroom and her room, and
no
that there were no bicycles everywhere. The earthen pot was a toilet. I think it was just a lot for everyone, and
sure.
Maybe they would still help. I don't know, but they just were like, okay, bye. And I wrote them a check, and
so when they
thank
leave
them for their time.
And the screen door closes, not only does anxiety and I'm sure fear and so many other feelings I have no idea about start kicking in, which to me would paralyze me, I think. And you were the opposite. You just jump and make things happen.
Yeah, it's weird. I wasn't really filled with anxiety. It wasn't loneliness because I realized no one was coming. It was a little bit before that. I got drunk and I didn't have a cell phone, so I paid a guy $40 at this bar called A-Raps in Inglewood to call all his friends. Yeah, now it's a Mexican joint, but it used to be just the best piss-smelling joint in Inglewood.
Yeah.
And so I called a bunch of people and I woke them up. I'm like, where are you? Like, you were a friend. And I think, those people didn't show up because they just didn't know what to do, And that's a big thing. If you're caring for someone, you have to let people know what to do.
You and I have talked about this before, but what you just said was like such a gut punch. I want to go back to it. You realize that no one's coming.
Yeah.
And I remember that moment. I'm sorry, I have a frog in my throat. It's mating with another frog. Where there was no superhero. There wasn't anyone that had a magic fix. I had to either change or I was going to die. And I know we were in different circumstances, but just that deep pitted, I guess, epiphany that no one's coming.
Yeah.
And you got to do it.
Yeah, no, it is weird. And it's just the reality, it was, I hate that phrase. It is what it is, but it's what it was. Right. And I existed I was already there for a while before that. In a way, I'm like, all of the questions have been answered to the best of our modern human ability.
Yeah.
Or maybe medieval human ability on some of the things that were done to her. But so it's just her and I now, and Sarah. And the three of us coexisted quite well. Hospice did come in, which I love those people.
Yeah.
But
God bless the hospice people.
Oh, my God. So, just fantastic people who essentially armed me with the ability to take her out when it got bad. So
now, with the type of cancer your mom had, did they figure out, was it genetic and that's how she had it, or did she get it from?
It's funny. We went on this media tour when she was doing pretty well because she hooked up with this club called Meningioma Mamas.
Okay.
And there was this woman, Liz Holzheimer, and I don't know if she's still in town, but she was actually married to a professional baseball player, and I think that afforded her an ability to be out and form this group, and she'd had meningioma, and so she took in my mom, and I think it was a symbiotic relationship. She provided support to my mom, and I provided support to the group with the media because we were on, Channel 9, we were on Cozy and The Mountain, all those stations, and one of the facts from her was that meningioma is a largely feminine tumor. About 65% are women. Oh. And her guess, this was 2005. I haven't followed the science, but her guess was it was a hormonal thing.
Okay.
But, with a lot of cancer, we don't necessarily know. But something makes a cell go renegade and it grows quickly. The thing with her tumors is that after a while, it was a misdiagnosis. Maybe from the beginning, but after a while. And that was something my dad kind of sheepishly admitted before he died, is that he was like, yeah, I think that, they had it wrong and they knew that. And I kind of knew they knew that. So, but we were at a point after a while, all we could do is just fight fire.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like we're going to plant better greenery, and be better with water. We were just fighting fire.
So by fighting fire, you knew that your mom her condition was not going to go away or be cured. And so therefore, how do you keep her comfortable while these tumors are relentlessly coming back?
Yeah.
Because I remember when she was still with us and you explaining how much and how many she had already been through. And I just was picturing this petite, lovely woman with just these blooming, tumors in her brain, and just wondering like how that came about. So thank you for letting me ask, where the doctors thought that it came from.
No, yeah, it's I know we have a lot of dietary issues. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of a ton of environmental issues. Just being in the city makes me feel like I'm dying of cancer every day. But and we are just addicted to convenience. But the thing is my mom was super healthy food wise and physically fit and lived in the mountains.
Yeah.
Now, granted, our house, which was on this pristine hilltop in the middle of nowhere, this cabin we built, was often filled with chainsaw gas and diesel fumes.
But that doesn't cause...
But so there was some environmental stuff, but as far as living clean, this is the cleanest human on the planet. Yeah. Optimistic, physically fit, mentally sound.
She was going to school.
Yeah, went to school, went back, fulfilled her dream. She graduated with her master's when I graduated from high school.
Wow.
It was like the best month of my life. I just remember wow. My sister and I kind of raised ourselves because she was doing her thing and we were like, do it, Mom, do it. And she felt bad about it, but I was like,
that's so cool at that young of an age that you would empower your mom and encourage her, knowing that you and your sister were on your own and she'd come back on the weekends. But how great, because I don't know, I know in my teenage years, I wouldn't have been that mature to be able to say, yeah, Mom, go chase that and get your degree.
Yeah, it was a big deal. And we'd always, because of this, how my dad had treated her for so many years, we were like, get the F out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that were really close to that situation where almost became mad at her because they're like, dude, and but my dad did his best while she was gone, and he would show up with a Tombstone pizza or whatever, and it was a fun time, but it was like Gen X, we were alone a lot anyway in the house, but we were alone in the woods, right. And the things we would come up with just to...
You're finding treasures.
Oh my, yeah, finding treasures. Episode 2.
That's right.
I think.
Episode 2, Jared Ewing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Found a treasure twice.
So yeah.
And I don't mean to interrupt you. The thing I keep coming back to is if your mom's last thing that she saw was the Caribbean or the sunset in the Mexican Riviera, how great versus like Denver's brown cloud or, like some nasty downtown thing or something. But the gift that you gave your mom on that trip, whether she remembers it or there was a lot of hallucinations or not. I mean, that was, and I've said this many times, what you and Sarah did by moving your mom in as newlyweds and caring for her for the rest of her life was so selfless and so beautiful. I mean, that's like stuff that makes people cry.
I guess it was, it was, but we became a really good trio, you know? So
yeah,
in the beginning it was like, oh my God, but, this is what we had to do.
And I remember coming over, this was the other house, and she had recently moved in, and that was when I was learning about everything and trying not to react in a way that showed, but trying to just be like inside of my head, like, oh my God, Jared is dealing with so much right now.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It was definitely, I don't know. I mean, it definitely refracted the light of my life in a different direction, but maybe something I needed. I think anybody needs that opportunity to really, it was the best possible option. I mean, really, whether I need it or not doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It was the best possible option, not just for her care, but for me as a kid to get to spend time with her. And it was wonderful. I was listening to this interview that Mark Szymanski, who is unfortunately has died too. But Mark Szymanski, this guy is like, he and Larry the Cable Guy started off in Orlando together in radio, and just a brilliant man. But I was listening to an interview he did with her for a show, and it was good to go back. That was like done in 2005, and just hear even he recount what he knew of my mom and my relationship. So yeah,
because I do think that your emotional maturity, your emotional intelligence, and just what a great person you are. I think all of this is your mom, and I see a lot of your mom in you, and just you're always an optimist, Jared. Even when I was really sick and horrible things, I would tell you stuff and you would find a way to polish that turd and make it look sparkly,
Jared, turd polisher.